So 5:14 Eastern Time. We're about to go live to Icon David Icke for the balance of this hour. I will be here live well into the next main radio broadcast till 12 noon tomorrow, and then Paul Watson from England will fill in the last 2 hours from prisonplanet.com. We've got David Icke for the rest of the hour. Then we are going to have Joel Skousen on the show, Dr. Stan Monteith, Dr. Paul Craig Roberts. We're going to have 2 hours with the top trends forecaster, Gerald Celente. We have Max Keiser joining us from Paris. And many of these guests are joining us via video link, and that's a good thing. Multiple radio stations that carry my show, I'm very surprised they're doing it, are carrying this nonstop. Channel 11 on one of the major cable systems in Houston, I've been on as a guest before, is carrying the entire transmission. And they did it last minute. They're just carrying the free video link that's pretty good quality, actually, when you blow it up to full screen up at Infowars.com. I'm almost scared to plug it because there's tens of thousands watching it right now, and it's holding up well. Knock on wood, but we are certainly trailblazing here with the alternative media. We are approaching, hopefully, the $200,000 mark. Our goal is $500,000. Sounds like a lot for the average person. Not when you have an operation with 20 employees and contractors, a 14,000 square foot facility, 3 giant websites, 2 websites that get millions of visitors per day, Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. We buy some of the cheapest video editing equipment out there that's prosumer. We have more than 15 G4s, or G5s, whatever the new Apples are. We have the switcher systems. We need to finish the new studio, and that's going to cost $400,000. We have the big social network to get patriots together and networking that's very high-tech, but it is a real hassle to build out and complete. That should be done by late this month or early next month. We're behind schedule several months on that. That is Planet Infowars. We are attempting to hire 2 or 3 new personnel to run the TV show, which will be a huge job for 2 or 3 people. All of this is very, very expensive, and we don't have the big foundations funding us. We don't have the globalists funding us. We don't have tens of millions a year in propaganda placement that the government now admits they pay to the mainstream networks. These are mercenaries. We don't have the Rockefeller Foundation funding us like NPR and PBS. We have you supporting us, buying the books, the videos, everything at Infowars.com. Like the new film, What in the World Are They Spraying?, exposing the geoengineering climate manipulation going on by the fake green terrorists who clearly are trying to cause weather problems as a pretext to sell their global tax. All of this is happening and going on. So we're going to David Icke in a moment. I want to thank him for joining us. He's going to be speaking this weekend in New York City at one of the most premier theaters there. He talks about 15 years ago, he'd speak to 20 people. Now he's speaking to 2,000, 3,000 in packed theaters anywhere in the world he goes, whether it's South Africa or the continent of Europe or England or the United States. And it's important to support him and all other truth tellers. And he's going to talk about, until the end of the hour, solutions with us. And he knows we're going to defeat the globalist. And we're going to talk about, though, the crises we're going to go through first as the world depression accelerates the global devaluation. But go to InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. Whether you give $1 or $1,000, it all goes to fight the globalist, and there's nowhere with a bigger bang for the buck in the fight than Infowars.com and the syndicated radio show and the high-quality films we produce for free. To give you an example, just providing this free video stream to everyone, we estimate conservatively for 27 hours, and we get bulk bandwidth, is going to cost around $10,000. Because when you have several 100,000 people tune in over a 24-hour period just on a video link and watch it for several hours, please, when you leave your computer so others can get on, click it off, turn it off. Because, I mean, literally the meter is running here. And it takes so much money to be able to stay on the air and reach people. We don't pay for our airtime on AM and FM stations. The sponsorship, of course, local stations get half the ads. We get the other half at the network. But then I split that half of the ads with Genesis, and then I get a quarter of the ads total. And our sponsors are great. They pull the lion's share of the weight. PrisonPlanet.tv memberships, $5.95 a month for all my films, my book, the live streams of the video every day, paying for that bandwidth, all my films in the highest quality, expanded exclusive extras just for PrisonPlanet.tv members. Then the buying of the books, the videos, the materials. One reason we're in a little bit of a cash crunch this year is not just the depression, even though our audience has tripled. In the past, as our audience went up, revenue went up. Audience has gone like that, revenue's gone like that. I guess some radio listeners can't see that. I mean, listenership's gone straight up parabolic. Money has gone flat or even down, actually down this year. We're probably talking $700,000 less. I was just doing my tax extension today because it's due tomorrow. And Patriot groups are like, why do you even pay taxes? They'd SWAT team us in 5 minutes. The FBI's already been here before. That's been in the news. You know, we have the ADL, Southern Poverty Law Center, MSNBC, CNN, all attacking us, saying I'm dangerous, we need to be shut down, lying about us. We're under attack. Your platform is under attack. So we're not just going to sit here at this level. The best defense is a good offense. InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. Donate right now. And then we're going to David. Infowars.com Moneybomb. Infowarsmoneybomb.com. Infowars.com to find the links. Or you can call toll-free 888-253-3139. 888-253-3139. You can call. We got 7 great crew members here taking your video orders or your donations. All of it supports the operation. 888-253-3139. My final point, we're going to David Icke. Down the road, a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, they're trying to shut the web down. They're trying to chill free speech. They're bringing in the depression. They're announcing troops to be all over the streets of America for the implosion, exactly as we told you. Think about how important our forecasting is, the guests, the information. Don't wish you'd have done something later. At least spread the word about the broadcast. Get copies of my films. Make copies. Give them to people. Air them on Access Television. Buy TV time and air them. Just get the information out to everyone because the people are ready to be awakened. Don't wish later you would have done something. We are at the crossroads right now. InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com or 888-253-3139. And now, for the next 40 minutes, David Icke of DavidIcke.com, who needs no introduction, exposing the globalists for more than 20 years, international best-selling author, former head of the Green Party, till he woke up to their communist operations for the globalists in England. BBC presenter, championship goalie, and so many other things. David Icke, good to have you on with us.
Cheers, Alex. I'm a bit closer to you this time. I'm in New York. It's pouring with rain, but I'm speaking here at the weekend, and first time I've spoken in New York, and it's going to be great, I think. And what you mentioned there about the Green Party is it's very important to my life to have had that experience with the Green Party, to see it from the inside. And to see politics from the inside, where you realize that it doesn't matter what the name is on the door or what the color is of the rosette. There's a blueprint, not just a blueprint in how the parties work, but a blueprint in the mind of politicians. And whether they're green, blue, pink, or whatever, they think and perceive in the same way. And the Green Party is claiming to be different. It's just another blueprint party like all the rest, using the environment to justify what the conspiracy wants to justify, which is centralization of control in every area of our lives. And of course, the environmental thing is giving them the excuse to go right down into the fine detail of our lives. And so politics is not the way out of here. Exposing politics en masse, whatever the party, is the way out of here.
Absolutely, David. And looking at this whole situation, as the globalists have to emerge, as they have to unveil that, oh, yes, there is going to be a collapse and the troops are training all over the world. It's the same continuity of agenda to suppress you. And, oh, yes, you know, the population is going sterile. And, oh, yes, bisphenol A is sterilizing you in the plastics. And, yes, we are going to have a global carbon tax. And, you know, they've denied it, denied it, denied it. And as you've said for 20 years, there'll be a point where their system has to emerge, and that is now happening. And this is a critical time for the global controllers and for free humanity.
Yes, it is. The point has arrived where they can't hide it anymore. I mean, if you're manipulating something below the surface because you want to keep it secret, because you want to get it as far down the road as you can before people are alerted to it, there still comes a point where if you want to make society change in its fundamental structure, you have to hit the surface with that. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. And we're there now. And it is a time of great opportunity as well as great challenge because, you know, people often have to see something before they'll accept that it exists. In fact, most people do. And you can pull more and more people into understanding by explaining, as has been happening for so many years now. This is the game. This is how it's played. This is where they want to go. But when people actually see it and it starts impacting upon their lives, then there's more and more and more people are actually going to see that the world is not like they thought it was. And that's a great opportunity, because we are at a fork in the road. And, you know, you're mentioning earlier how people can support what you're doing, et cetera, et cetera. Well, this is a time when no backsides need to be on any fences. This is a time when we're deciding, are we going to be acquiescent and lay down and in a bar-coded mob be controlled for the rest of our lives in ways that would make George Orwell wince? Or are we going to take this point, enough, line in the sand, here and no further? And that means not being on the sidelines anymore, not being on the other side of the road shouting even boo-hoo, it's terrible what you're doing, but actually getting across the road and getting involved. You know, I've been talking to Luke from We Are Change New York, doing a little video with him this afternoon here, and we were talking about this. And what people like him are doing is putting microphones in front of people. He was showing me clips that he did with Tony Blair and Jacob Rothschild. And when you see, Alex, these people, these all-powerful people, when they actually get confronted by people who are not in awe of them, not frightened of them, and are willing to ask the questions that the pathetic mainstream are not willing to ask, these people fall apart. You know, they don't know what to say. They're lost. And, you know, if someone like Blair comes to New York and he gets that done to him, and then he goes off to L.A. and someone else is there doing it to him, and there's no escape, there's no hiding place, then we start to take the game to the manipulators, instead of standing on the other side of the street waiting for the next move by the manipulators.
Okay, I want to stop you right there, because so many people I interview don't understand that the globalists are just people too, and they're not invincible, and history shows we can have a new renaissance of liberty and freedom. I mean, the choice is no choice at all. It's total slavery. And I'm going to try to sit back, David, and give you the floor, because everything you say is so thought-provoking that I'm constantly adding and interjecting and backing up what you're saying. So I'm going to have you roll for about 20 minutes before I even interrupt you, and the only way I can do that is I'm going to get up out of this chair, I'm going to walk into the control room and watch you like I'm a viewer. It's the only way I can control myself for 20 minutes straight, and then I'll come back for the next 20 minutes with you. Maybe I can even twist your arm to sting a little bit more, because it's always so uplifting to hear you. But I have had the experience, and I want to say this, and I want you to speak about it. I have had the experience as somebody 17 years ago who was in college, and they were telling me that world government was good, my guns were bad, my Second Amendment was bad, that white people were bad, and you know, all of this stuff to create this guilt. And then I would turn on CNN and they would say, crazy people say there's a world government, crazy people say we want their guns, crazy people say all of this. And I was like, well, wait a minute, I'm being brainwashed about this at one level, but then they say it doesn't exist here. And I had family, like my cousin who was in the Model United Nations, because they take all the top students in public school and put them in that. He got out of it and said, yeah, it's all world government. I got on air 15 years ago just trying. I couldn't get on local radio. I was interning. They said, you got to wait 10 years before you even get on the air. I went and did an Access TV show. It instantly made news. It instantly had, it came out in the ratings 1 year into Access TV as being #1 in the time slot on cable in Austin. I got a once-a-week radio show, top ratings. Then a weekday show, top ratings on a top FM in town, talk radio. I then became syndicated. I never submitted. I never was censored. I turned down the payoff offers. I did it all. And I have reached, just in the last 2 years, 200 million people on YouTube and Google for free with our free videos. I have gotten all the international media to attack me and say I'm the ultimate, devil and so dangerous. I have, again, thanks to listener support, had a huge effect and exactly the experience you talk about. Whenever I stand up to tyranny, we knock them down. Every time I go to the legislature, I catch bribery and corruption news. Every time we get off our knees, as your new book's title is, Humankind Get Off Your Knees, and every time I get off my knees, I have nothing but success. And that's the secret of the globalists. They teach you you're powerless, you have no power. They try to confuse people with false paradigms because they're scared to death. They know how powerful humanity is. They know that liberty and the free market and everything that's basic is so much better than their tyranny. And they try to make us think resistance is futile, we will be assimilated. But that is a lie. And I want you to talk about compartmentalization, how the police, the military, all of them are being used by this. People think they're part of the power structure. They're not. You have the floor. First, let me ask you, will you stay 10 minutes with us into the next hour, David?
Yeah, that'd be fun, Alex, yeah.
Okay, because this is commercial-free today. I am going to get up out of my chair to control myself, and I'm going to go in there 20, 30 minutes, and I'm going to listen to David Icke today give our listeners and viewers a speech, not an interview, but a speech. In fact, you got 30 minutes, David, and I'm going to come back and do another 20 minutes with you on the other side. God bless you. David Icke, ladies and gentlemen, on how we're winning and how we're going to win and how the false reality is being lifted, the curtain is being lifted, and we are going to win. Resistance is victory. David Icke.
Well, thanks, Alex. First of all, I would say that there has to be a fundamental change in the dynamics and the understanding of where the power lies. We keep talking about the fact that the structure of society is built on pyramids and pyramidal power, with the few at the top dictating to the rest of the pyramid. But what tends to happen is we look at the top of the pyramid for the power in the pyramid, but that ain't where the power is. The real power in the pyramid is at the base. That's what's holding the capstone, the apparent point of power, where it is. And what they've done is done a massive mind game upon the human consciousness and persuade us that they have the power, that the dark suits and the famous people and the people with letters after their name and names before their name, president, prime ministers, head of the World Bank, that this is where the power is. They have the power, but they don't. What this whole game is about is getting the mass of the people persuaded that that's where the power lies. And so we look at them in awe. We think they're all powerful. There's nothing we can do because we're just Joe Public and we have no power. So we are giving our power away by the perception that we don't have it, but they do. It's all a mind game. And then you look at the pyramid structure, and you have the mass of the pyramid at the bottom, i.e. the mass of humanity, holding the elite up there. What are we doing? And I had a friend years ago. He was a British comedian. His name was Larry Grayson. And he died, and I went to his memorial service at Covent Garden in London. And another comedian told a story that Larry Grayson had told him about something that happened to him. And I listened to it, and I thought, that is so profound. Larry Grayson told him this story, that he was in a show in the 1950s or something on the old music hall circuit in Britain. And it was an all-male show, and there was one woman in it, and that was Larry Grayson, dressed up as Britannia in the last scene. The last scene of this show, all the men came on dressed as sailors, and they formed a pyramid on the stage. And they were singing Rule Britannia, Britannia rules the waves, all that bloody nonsense. Anyway, then Larry Grayson would come on, dressed as Britannia with the helmet and the sword and the shield, and he would get manhandled up the top of this pyramid for the big finish at the end of the show with him at the capstone of the pyramid. And on this particular night, he said things had been going rather well, but then he said he noticed that the sailor in the left-hand corner of the pyramid had got rather a cough. And this cough got worse and worse and worse. And this sailor couldn't hold in the pyramid anymore and staggered forward. What then happened was the pyramid collapsed, and Larry Grayson, symbolic of this global elite at the peak of these pyramids, ended up in someone's lap in the second row. And so we have to, first of all, re-evaluate and re-understand where the point of power is in this world. There are 7 billion people being manipulated. There is a relative handful doing the manipulating in full knowledge of what they are doing. So much so that to impose their will, they have to engage and employ people from the target population, called people in uniform and dark suit administrators, to enforce and administer into being the structure of control that they are pressing forward. So the target population even has to supply the enforcers and the administrators of this structure on the target population. That's what we're talking about in terms of numbers. So first of all, the people have the power. We have allowed ourselves to be persuaded that we don't, and therefore every day we give our power away to the few, thinking that's where the power lies. So we think that we can't challenge the law. Well, you know, you've got to be law-abiding. Well, why have you got to be law-abiding? If laws respect freedom and respect human civil rights, they respect fairness, they respect justice, then fine. But if they are imposed simply to take those things away, to dictate to the fine detail of people's lives, to make the system unjust so the money goes to the tiny few and gets sucked out of the majority population, who are working harder and harder, more and more jobs just to stand still, while the bankers who have created this current economic mayhem at the top on purpose and lower down through sheer bloody greed, they are paying themselves massive bonuses based on borrowed money that our children and grandchildren will have to pay back. That's what happens when the majority give their power away to the few. Now, when those laws are being introduced that are giving the people the rights to do this, that are saying there's one law for the few and there's another law for everyone else, that are taking terrorist laws in theory and applying them to the general population, as it was always planned that they would do, then what are we doing obeying those laws? We should not be acquiescing to them. We should be refusing to obey them, refusing to acquiesce to them, because the real power is with us if we come together in numbers, in mutual support. We put aside these fault lines of religious differences, racial differences, income bracket differences, and we realize that actually this is not a conspiracy to enslave middle-class Americans or Jewish people or Muslims. It's a conspiracy to enslave all of us. And in dividing and ruling us, they have got us fighting and arguing among ourselves, which is the only way that a few can manipulate the many, by dividing the many in and on themselves. So first of all, we have to start to see where the dynamics of power is, if we take it, with the people, not the so-called elite cesspit level. And then, once we've realized where the dynamic of power is, to stop dividing that power by arguing about who has the right religion, who has the right politics, and all the rest of it. It's all a nonsense. It's all diversion. People should believe whatever religion they want to follow and respect another's right to believe something else. Okay, you believe your religion? Yeah, I believe mine, or whatever. I don't have a religion, but you know, anyone that does. Okay, well, let's have a beer or something. Just and get on with it. So let's agree to differ. Let's unite, however, behind what affects us all, and what affects all our children and all our grandchildren, no matter what religion, what color, what creed, what income bracket, what culture. And that is the fact that our basic human rights are being eroded by the day. We're having a draconian, soulless, cold, callous, vindictive force imposing their will upon us while we are divided. And when we stop doing that and we come together, then we say, okay, We have the numbers. How do we use that? And there's a great example going on at the moment with the foreclosures. I'm reading now that it's being claimed that the banks have been faking documents to force foreclosures through faster and faster because they can't cope with the numbers. Well, if that is correct, that's not coping with the number of foreclosures when people are actually leaving when they get a foreclosure document, and they can't handle that, so they're saying. Imagine if we took this one stage further and said, we are not leaving, foreclosure document or not. They could not possibly cope with that number of people sitting tight and staying put. Where would they start? They don't have the numbers. Because here we have a situation, again, where we come back to a law that is fair and just and right, fair enough. A law that is there to fleece the population, to impose the will of the few, to literally steal their livelihood and their homes. What are we doing obeying those laws? Instead of doing the thing that most people do, which is the document comes, well, it's the law, we can't pay the mortgage, we've got to go. Instead of doing that, stay put. We're not moving. Why? I'll tell you why, Mr. Mortgage Man, we're not moving. I can't pay my mortgage because my husband or me have lost our jobs. Why have we lost our jobs? Because of an economic recession and crash. Why did that happen? Because at the top of the banking system, systematically taking away checks and balances to keep a check and balance on the runaway greed of the banking system and most of the people that work for it, especially in places like the City of London and Wall Street. So at that level, they took the checks and balances away coldly and calculatedly because they knew when they did that unfettered greed would run riot. And that's what they did. Giving mortgages away to people they knew couldn't pay them, but they got the bonus as long as the signature was at the bottom of the piece of paper on the day. And that has created this mess where unbelievable numbers of people are being foreclosed because of the banks and the banking system. And who's coming along now and saying you can't pay your mortgage, you've got to get out and give me your house? The banks that caused the trouble. And we're leaving? This is what I mean by laws that are not fair and not just and have no sense of benefiting the community, but just sucking them dry. What are we doing obeying these laws? No more acquiescence. We ain't leaving. And then the people start to use the numbers to take the power back and see where the power lies. Because it was like I was saying to Alex, you know, when I was seeing clips from We Are Change New York, where they've confronted some of these people like Blair and the Rothschilds and others, and they're completely lost when that awe is removed. Oh, he's the Prime Minister. He's Mr. Rothschild. And he's got 2 legs, 2 arms, a torso, and a head. Why is he different from anybody else? It's the illusion of power, the illusion of omnipotence. That's how it's done. Like in the Bugs Life movie where the grasshopper says of the ants, they outnumber us 100 to 1, and if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. We must, as a human race, outnumber those manipulating us in full knowledge of what they're doing and where they want to go by unbelievable numbers, noughts over the horizon to 1. And when we figure that out, there goes their way of life. There goes the ability of the few to dictate to the many. This is not an impossible situation. It's not a done deal. It's not game over. It's another stage of the game that's starting here. We've reached a point where information has got out to enough people now for them to realize in large and ever larger numbers the situation we're facing. Now, it's time for the game, and it's starting, to take the next stage, which is the people in awareness of what's happening to take the game to these people. Like I said earlier, instead of standing there saying, what's the next move of the manipulators? Who cares? What's our next move in relation to the manipulators? And I feel that, you know, that the more that we kind of uncover the individuals involved, instead of protesting outside the White House and protesting outside Parliament in London, which is basically protesting at the oil rags of politicians and not at the engineers that are behind them, we ought to start more and more locating these people and confronting them who are behind the politicians, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and all the rest, the George Soroses, the Zbigniew Brzezinskis, and all these people. There's a great list of them, and you know, the information's there now. To track them down when they're operating in public and just keep at it. They got on a plane to Denver. Hey, you left our friends in New York. Here we are now. We got some questions for you. And start to make them think, what is the next move of the people? Now the dynamics has changed. And this is what they're terrified of. You know, people see strutting, arrogant, all-powerful people. You know what I see? I see frightened little boys. And you know the bully in the playground? The bully in the playground, overwhelmingly, over and over again, I've found in my life, is actually a coward. The way the bully bullies and imposes his will on all the other kids in the playground is, here we go again, the perception of the other kids that the bully has power and strength and great courage. I had an experience when I was a kid when a bully and a gang turned on me in the playground, and they were terrorizing the playground in a school in my hometown. And I had a word with my father. He said, look, Dave, he says, the only way you're going to overcome this is you're going to get the biggest one, get the bully, and take him on. And they came to me one afternoon, and they said, right, you, the gang and him, right, you, in the toilets, we're going to sort you out. They were going to beat me up. That's what they were going to do. And instead of running, as they thought I was going to do, I said to him, all right, then, let's go. And I went in these toilets with at the school with his gang behind him, and he was trying to beat me up. He didn't, because it was all a facade. He didn't know what to do, because now the mouth has got to deliver. He couldn't deliver, and they all left, all of them. Never landed a bloody punch on me, and they left. And after that, no more problem from the bullies, because they'd been found out what they really are. And that's what this network of Illuminati families are. They're frightened bullies, and their only way that they can prevail is persuading us they have power. They don't. When we unite and stop being in awe and stop thinking little me and realize that we can do anything we like. And the reason most people don't do anything is on one level, yes, okay. They think they don't have the power to do it. But on another level, they're finding excuses not to do it. It's not that they can't do it. People are doing it all the time. These two young fellas that were in my hotel room here a few minutes ago from We Are Change, they go out and confront these people. And they're taking this next stage forward of, instead of standing on the other side of the street waiting for the next move, they go and make their next move. And this is the spirit, this is the lack of intimidation that we need. And the more people do it, of course, the more people will see it's possible, and this whole thing will go on. Because we have a choice. We can go on as we have been, and thinking the powers in the peak of the pyramid that we're holding up there, and in which case this whole control system will move on and move on and move on. Or we can see where the real power lies and express it and take it back. And that includes people in uniform. And it includes people in dark suits, administrative positions within the system, who, through compartmentalization, have no idea that they are playing a part every day in enslaving their own children and grandchildren. Where you've got people in uniform that think they're fighting for America when they're fighting for the very force that is going to, or is intent on destroying America. At the moment, the United States is being used to destroy the United States, because when you have a world government dictatorship, you cannot have superpowers that have the military and financial might to say no to you. Otherwise, it's not a dictatorship. And what we're seeing now is the armed forces of the United States being stretched to the limit, being used for wars of acquisition and all the rest of it, but not on behalf of the United States, on behalf of the force, the network that controls the United States and controls London and controls the European Union, etc., controls Israel. And the economic might of the United States is being systematically undermined, because they cannot have America as a superpower and a world government dictatorship. They're using America to destroy America. And you in uniform, and you in the dark suit professions administrating this stuff into being every day, you are playing your part, not in serving America, but in destroying America on behalf of these insane people. It's time to take our power back, the time for Americans to take America back, and the British to take Britain back, etc., from this network, this spider's web of interconnected secret society networks that have their tentacles, their whatever symbolism you want to use, in every single country. When people in Britain are trying to stop the Orwellian state coming in there, and people in America are doing it, and people in Australia or Africa are doing it, the people they're challenging is the same global network. We're all in this together globally as a human race. It's time to say enough. And there's that great line, if I can remember it, from a British poet called Shelley, which I've used in my latest book, where the poem goes, "Rise like lions after slumber in unvanquishable number. Shake your chains to earth like dew, which in sleep has fallen on you. Ye are many, they are few." When we figure that out, there goes their way of life. Is Alex still sitting there? While he's coming back, I'll say I'm talking in San Francisco next Saturday, if anyone wants to go there, for 8 hours, where I connect the dots. And when you connect the dots, my goodness me, what appears is an elephant in the living room.
David?
It's so obvious when the dots are connected. Yes, Alex?
I was just sitting there in the control room listening to you and thinking, I don't think anybody's ever had David Icke on the radio and just sat back and listened to him. We're going to have you 20 minutes in the next hour, or even longer if you want, but now you've got dinner and other events coming up. But this is a special 27-hour live transmission we're doing. So that was quite a close that you made on that point. I was sitting there in my chair in the control room going, that sounds like a closing line. But, you know, the woods are lovely, dark, and deep, but I have miles to go before I sleep. It was the best of times, the worst of times. No army can stop an idea whose time has come. And we are at that fork in the road, that crossroads. There's been some big developments with UFOs. I was wrong earlier today, because it hadn't happened yet, when I said, well, we heard UFOs were going to arrive over major U.S. cities yesterday, but it didn't happen. And I think the fact that you have these military people and others saying when they would arrive, and now they arrive, this is clearly Project Bluebeam, and what Kissinger and Reagan and others talked about, an alien invasion unifying the world. They're definitely balloon testing. They are sending up test balloons to see if they should go with the fake alien invasion. I want to talk about that with you because you were just on last week and agreed to come on for this special live commercial-free transmission. But again, I wanted to give you 30 minutes uninterrupted. So spend 7 more minutes, David, on standing up to bullies, as you said, and what We Are Change. And I'm so honored. I talked to Luke today when he was in your hotel room, and he talked about how my ideas, and it just shows you never imagine these things will happen, led to We Are Change. And when he got kicked out of 9/11 Truth in New York for not supporting an attempted UN globalist takeover of it to make it all leftist, that he got kicked out, and I supported him and said, keep confronting people, keep doing what you're doing, and they did it. Be the change you want to see in the world, like Mahatma Gandhi said, and now there are, 500-plus chapters worldwide. They're confronting Al Gore and globalists everywhere they go, and it's spreading. Other groups are now imitating it. It shows how, like a pebble in the pond, the effects it has. So speak some more about that. Then we're going to come back to 20, 30 more minutes with you and then let you go, talking about other news and things that are happening right now. But, yeah, this is the first time ever that I've shut up for 25 minutes while somebody's talking. But David, please continue. You've got the floor.
Well, the thing is that there's never nothing we can do. And I can't do anything. There's nothing I can do.
Resistance is victory. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's used as a constant excuse to do nothing. And, when we come into some kind of understanding of what's going on in the world, that comes with responsibility. And that responsibility is to then say, how can I contribute to making a difference to what I now know is going on? And so many people, I see them, Alex, on the forums. There's some great work that happens on the forums, and some great research done and communicating of information. And I'm not knocking it. I have a forum on my own website, and it's great. But there is a forum mentality, in so many people, where they come into some kind of awareness of what's going on. And their contribution to it is basically slagging each other off on forums about who knows more about this than somebody else. And you think, well, is that the only thing you can think of doing? Now you realize the kind of problems that we're facing. And a lot of it is because they want to avoid stepping out and actually getting involved in a way that there might be some consequences for them. They don't want to go there. And if we think that sort of we're going to bring this to an end without there being challenges, well, forget it. But what you do is when the challenge comes, you meet it, you face it, and there's always a way around it. I've had so many efforts to bring me down over the years. There's one that's bubbling in the background now, which may become public at some point. But what you do is you've okay, here's a problem, here's a barrier. Now, I've got a choice here. I can lie down and play dead and say, there's nothing I can do, or I can say, okay, there is something I can do, because I'm not going to be stopped from doing what I'm doing. Therefore, this problem has a solution, but there's going to be a way around it. And you find one. And then there's another challenge, and then you meet that, another challenge, and you meet that. And while you're meeting these challenges, you're moving forward. You're expanding what you're doing. You're making a bigger and bigger contribution. And, none of us involved in this were kind of born into or walked into a situation where it was all there and nothing had to be done. There was no challenges. When I started on this journey 20 years ago, I started like in football terms about 60-0 down. I couldn't walk down any street in Britain at the time without being laughed at by most of the people. I was subject to constant ridicule. A comedian only had to say my name, and no joke necessary, and the audience were laughing. I would, stop my car at traffic lights, and the family in the next car would be laughing at me. I went through all this massive ridicule. It seemed that there was no way back from that. But if you keep speaking your truth, and you will not take no for an answer in terms of doing what you want to do, and you know to be right, you don't go around trying to explain yourself and justify to yourself. Here's some information. Make of it what you will. If you think I'm crazy, well, good luck. I don't care, because I'm going to keep communicating what I know to be right. And what happens if what you're saying has validity, and anyone exposing this thing now, it clearly has validity, because it's blatantly obvious what's happening to more and more people. When you speak your truth and you keep speaking it, if it has validity, eventually it will be seen to be so. And but if you think, well, if I say this, what will they think of me? What are the consequences for me? Well, there's another question. What are the consequences of not doing it? And that, well, read 1984, multiply it by 1,000, read Brave New World, multiply it by the same, and then you'll get an idea of what happens if we don't do something. So if we speak our truth, of course people are going to call you're crazy. They're going to say, ridicule you. So what? If you don't speak your truth now, it's never going to be seen eventually to have validity, and therefore nothing's going to change. And so all the challenges that people took years ago, all the ridicule that they took, now is worth it, is justified because they kept going, then people can see that what they were saying has validity, and it's making a major, major difference in the world. Now, if people have said right at the start, oh, well, I can't, it's too challenging, and oh, what are the consequences for me, and oh, maybe people will laugh at me, and maybe they'll ridicule me, and all that stuff, then the information's never communicated, the validity of it is not eventually seen, therefore, and you have changed nothing. And what we need to do is kind of take a deep breath, stiffen the backbone, and say, I am going to speak my truth, I'm going to make my contribution, and whatever consequences come, I'll deal with it, and then keep speaking out. They're the kind of people we need. And, you know, it's amazing how there's so much physical courage that you see. You see it with troops. They are capable of the most extraordinary levels of physical courage, helping their mates out and all the rest of it in battle scene situations. And yet, they're terrified of saying the wrong word to someone who's got a few more pips on their arm or whatever than they have on some bloody uniform. And because physical courage for so many people comes easier than the other kind of courage, which is stepping up and speaking out. That's another kind of courage. That's what we need. People who won't take no for an answer, who are not in awe of the system and those so-called powerful people that run it, and who are not prepared to shut up because they fear the consequences of speaking out. And more of those people are coming forward, and that's what we need, more and more of those people. Now, for those who still feel they couldn't do that, that's fair enough. You know, everyone's kind of different. But those people can make a contribution in the background. They can support people financially. They can support people in so many ways, the people that go out front and do it. And I would say this too, this is an important point in this next stage that I'm talking about, where we take the game to the manipulators and we've changed the rules of the game in doing so. And that is, I know, and Alex knows, but I know from my own personal experience, so will many other people, out there around the world are very large numbers of famous people in the entertainment industry, in various kinds, whatever it may be. Famous people in different areas that have a public platform who can see it. I know it through famous people who buy my books, for instance, etc. And Alex will know many famous people in America who are of the same ilk. Okay, some of them have stood up and spoken publicly. But what we need now is for them to get off the fence as well if they're listening. Because you have such an amazing contribution to make. If you stand up on a stage in front of, 20, 30, 40,000 people at a concert and just give some of the information and where people can get more. What an amazing contribution that makes in spreading the word.
Look what Bellamy of Muse has done, wearing Terror Storm and Infowars.com shirts, and posting Infowars.com is one of the only links on the official Muse website. And here's an example of the little people like us, the average person. We've had 3 search terms, number 1, number 2, and number 3 today. Infowars Money Bomb, number 1. Alex Jones, number 2. Rioting Americans, linking to an article where they admit they're training the military to basically take over every city in the U.S. Right. That is number 1 now. Under it is Infowars Money Bomb. Alex Jones is number 4, moving from the number 3 place. Bill O'Reilly's number 3. Now, hundreds of newspapers, articles, blogs are now all writing about the Infowars.com money bomb, the Infowars money bomb. They're now talking about Infowars.com. They're now linking through. And when they click the name Alex Jones, they see all my websites, all my news. They see the money bomb. They see the article about the troops preparing to basically take over during a financial collapse. Another example of this radio show that when it's live on all the AM and FM affiliates, this is just internet right now, but still huge. And in the aggregate, with the videos going out forever, it'll reach millions. But it'll take a few months for it to get to those numbers. It's like throwing that pebble into the pond. We are talking about millions of people today, conservatively, that are going to read about the martial law takeover plan because of rioting America as being the #1 search term. We're going to have millions look up Alex Jones, then find David Icke listing right now. We are going to have millions of people look up the Infowars.com money bomb. We need everyone to go to Infowars and go to InfowarsMoneyBomb.com and donate right now so we can expand this operation, not just continue it. Quite frankly, the economy's so bad, we need this just to continue at the current level. I'd started this plan for the money bomb just to expand. Now the economy's just unraveling. Everyone knows it. That's the globalist plan. Shut off all of our resources so we don't have a capacity to stand up against them like poor people in Mexico or North Korea. And I just want to put the pitch out right now. Please, if you believe in what we're doing, you are funding a system that puts out your voice, that puts out the unfettered truth, that brings on powerful, controversial, iconic people like David Icke and Ron Paul and General Hamid Gul, former head of Pakistani intelligence, yesterday for a whole hour interview. I mean, this is amazing stuff that's happening, and the globalists are scared. They're not invincible. They're not God. It's a lie that they try to put that out. You can call toll-free to donate. We got 7 people to answer the phones. Earlier, it was so busy, people were in queue, 3 or 4 deep, but right now, a few phone lines are open. 888-253-3139. 888-253-3139. Let's send a strong message. Let's raise more than $500,000. Right now, it's a battle right at about $185,000 to get to $500,000 by tomorrow afternoon in the 24-hour plus money bomb. Please, folks, be part of this. Understand how serious it is. The government takes your money in propaganda placement and pays the news media. That's now admitted. We can't put a gun to your head, and we wouldn't put a gun to your head to make you donate or take your tax money and fund it to enslave you. This is your choice, your rebellion against tyranny, your first step on a 1,000-mile journey. If you can't donate, that's fine. If you don't have a lot of money, please don't. It's those middle-class people that are left and the wealthy that need to step up. And, you know, you were talking about Hollywood people. I don't just know Jesse Ventura, who I met with 4.5 years ago and gave my videos, and that woke him up, and he's talked about that. Now look at the effect he's having, reaching tens of millions. It's not just Charlie Sheen that I woke up when his brother Emilio Estevez, who's really the guy that first knew about this stuff, listened to me for more than 10 years, woke him up. And, you know, I talk to Emilio on the phone routinely, you know, and he doesn't come on the show, and I'm not criticizing him for that. But the point is he works quietly from behind the scenes. I've been at dinners with the biggest people in Hollywood, even bigger than Charlie Sheen, bigger than Jesse Ventura, the biggest names. And they say, and of course I don't sit there at the dinner table and ask them for money. Maybe that's what I should do. People making millions of dollars a week. I'm here to the little people saying support us, and maybe that is a good idea. But the issue is the biggest names in the country, the biggest names. And then I was talking to the TV producer, Michael Braverman, for Ventura's TV show, and he said, yeah, I've been meeting with some of the biggest names, but they're scared to go public. And I said, let me guess those names. Brad Pitt? Yeah, that's one of them. Okay, well, what about Bruce Willis? Yeah, how do you know all this? Well, I know who's awake. I woke Bruce Willis up. But you don't see Bruce Willis on this show. Bruce just said, I'm done. I'm not supporting Republicans anymore. The same people that killed Kennedy killed our economy and are still in control. People didn't believe it when I was told that by Linkletter on air, who gave him my films and woke him up. And since I've got more, I'm not going to get into it. The point is I confirmed it. Then he came out in Vanity Fair 6 months later and said word for word what we'd said on the show. So at least Bruce isn't supporting the right-wing fake arm of it. But, I mean, if I told you the other names, you know, I know Keanu Reeves, totally awake. I know Woody Harrelson, totally awake. These are names I can say. The other names are literally, and this is what I've also been told, David, and I've been told this to my face, and I've been told this by Braverman on air. This is Michael Braverman, produced some of the biggest TV shows in the country. He said there's a mafia, basically, in Hollywood. And I've had private discussions with him as well where he repeats it in more detail, but I won't get into it. He said Steven Spielberg rules Hollywood and has connections to all the big production houses. So does Jerry Bruckheimer. And if they don't like you, they will shut you down. And he said this on air. And he said it about Spielberg. And he explained it. He said they want you to be left-wing or they want you to be right-wing, part of that fake control paradigm.
Right.
But they said there is a revolution, and I've already seen this, in Hollywood where they almost all see it. Every TV production crew I know somebody worked on Lost. They said they watch my show every day. They're obsessed with it. That was Mike Rivera worked on it. Everyone I talked to, Dancing with the Stars, American Idol, they're watching my show in their green rooms, in their dress-up rooms. They are literally on fire, and look what they did with Charlie Sheen, how they set him up, lied about him, did all that stuff to try to shut him up. Then they had a producer. I talked about this at the time, but was told not to talk about all of it because it was private. But Cuban, the owner of one of the big production houses, Cuban was told, shut up. The SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, called him, David, and also sent him an email. And I was told this at Charlie Sheen's house, and I was on the phone while they were on the phone. Okay, I mean, I was witnessing this on speakerphone and couldn't talk about it for a year. And they were told, we are going to criminally indict you if you put Loose Change Final Cut out in theaters. We're going to criminally indict you. Here I'd pumped $100,000 in. I was trying to get a bigger budget, have Charlie voice it, and that all fell through because then one of the other producers at the major distributor, not the producer, Cuban, but the distributor, I'm not going to say the name because they don't want it out there, they were told, and I was in other meetings with Nick Cassavetes and all of them, they were called. And one of the people's sisters was married to a top general. I'm going to leave it at that. They were told, do you like your kids being safe? Because they're going to get killed if you do this. I have been in super high-powered Hollywood meetings where people's children are being threatened. And then it came out in the New York Times a year later. I couldn't talk about it. I said Cuban was threatened. That he was sent an email, and it was published, and a phone call. We're going to destroy you, Cuban. And it turned out he didn't do the insider trading for a paltry sum. He's like worth $5 billion. It was like $80,000 or something. Or I think... The point is they've re-indicted him or they've started the SEC thing. SEC, who for 10 years protected Bernie Madoff, stealing $100 billion. I mean, David, that's how real it is because Hollywood is the Edward Bernays mind control pageant system to say, oh, look, the icons say support global warming, support global tyranny, support taxes. All their icons are defecting to us, but they're all scared, literally under a political gun, threats on their life if they go public. Now, I've got to keep you another 20 because I got other subjects to get into, and I know you can do it. And we're going to let you go at about 35 after, David. And I appreciate your time, davidike.com. But just hearing you say that, that's my experience. We've already won the hearts and minds of all these people. And go ahead.
Well, what comes out of this, Alex, is it's a decision. I mean, what you've just described about Hollywood, I completely agree with it. Is the microcosm of the macrocosm. It's a concentrated example of what's happening globally to the people. You know, there are people in government and all these different aspects of the system who are also threatened with loss of jobs, loss of earnings, IRS investigations, whatever, if they speak out or don't do what they're told to do. But it's this point where we stand at this fork in the road, and it's decision time. You know, and I would say to those people in Hollywood who have realized the game and are frightened because of the consequences, look at the consequences of not doing it, because the consequences of that is enslavement anyway.
They're already poisoning our food and water, David. Anyway. David, they're already poisoning our food and water on record. It's now admitted. I mean, we're already under attack. All we can do is fight.
Well, yeah, all we can do is step to the plate, step to the line, and say, I am not going to be intimidated anymore. If, you know, Mr. Spielberg or anyone else, I'll do this to you if you speak out. Well, do it, darling, because I'm speaking out. And what would happen if all these people you're talking about came out as one unit, got together, support in numbers and to an extent safety in numbers, spoke out not only about what they say is going on in the world from what they've now understood, but also spoke out about the intimidation. You know, I've said to people many times, whistleblowers and stuff have come to me, I said, you know, in so many ways you are in more danger when you know something, but the people don't know you know it. Because when something happens to you, no one asks any questions. You get these people coming out, famous people. This is what I'm saying. This is what I've been told will happen if I say it. Well, what are the system? What's the system going to do? Are they going to make it a self-fulfilling prophecy and prove them right? And people go, my God, that's the last thing they're going to do, because that will alert more and more people to the fact that this is going on.
Exactly, David. That's why people ask, how is David Icke or Alex Jones or Ron Paul still alive?
Running straight at them, that's why. Running straight at them. It's what they don't want. Calling their bluff. Calling their lack of power that presents itself as all powerful.
Well, it's more than that, and I want you to speak to this. I passed the point of no return the day I stepped up 15-plus years ago. You passed the point of no return almost 20 years ago, and it is a spiritual decision. You feel the chains come off. The world opens up to you. You literally are so fulfilled that your life is so dynamic and filled with the energy of love in the universe that it is indescribable, and you leave the cave, Plato's cave, and come out into the light. And they know that, and if they kill David Icke or Ron Paul or Alex Jones or Jesse Ventura, it highlights, in fact, bring me a yellow highlighter. I want to show folks what I'm talking about. It highlights the headline. It underlines it. It puts 5 exclamation points. It shouts it out. And they've learned that when they kill an icon, what did Benjamin Franklin say? What did Thomas Jefferson said? He said that, you know, I mean, he talked about just committing to something and taking action and never giving in and never giving up, and that idea is unstoppable. In fact, I'm going to highlight this article right here. We're under attack, support alternative media and InfoWar. I mean, what happens when I highlight it? What happens? It stands out. If they kill us, it only gives more power to us, and as Thomas Jefferson said, the tree of liberty must be watered by the blood of patriots and tyrants. You know, fact is, I don't want to be fertilizer to defeat the New World Order. I think I'm doing more good alive than dead, but I've committed. I've said, whatever you're going to do it, but I've made the primal decision to set my entire will, my entire soul, my entire being against everything this dehumanization and this parasitic system represents. And it is that decision that is the equivalent of holy water and silver crosses to vampires. David Icke.
Well, it gives you enormous power when you commit yourself to something, and the consequences are not part of the equation. Because most people are not doing something because they fear the consequences. Will someone take me out? Will people ridicule me? Will I lose my job? Will I not get picked for the next big movie? And so that need, it's like that great line in that song, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. And it's not just about having nothing left to lose, it's choosing.
She says we have nothing if we ain't free.
Yeah, exactly. So it's making the choice to remove consequences from the equation of decision-making in terms of what you do.
And then you see the lie.
In
fact, let me interrupt and give the full line. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. And she laughs. Nothing. She says it's a joke. You're not giving anything up. You gain it all. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. It's nothing. It's nothing if it ain't free. You don't have anything if you're not free. She laughs. It's a joke. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Ha! Nothing. Nothing if we ain't free. We ain't got nothing if we ain't got that.
Well, let's look at this from this point of view, from what we're talking about here. There you have people in Hollywood. They are known worldwide. They'll be recognized in almost any street in the world. They have the big house. They have fantastic amounts of money and wealth and stardom and all the rest of it. And they're not free enough to speak their truth. Why? Because they're concerned about the consequences. Consequences will always take your freedom away. perceiving consequences for doing what you know to be right will always take your freedom away. And what the system is trying to do is put before you consequences. And if you don't make that choice of what are the consequences for me immediately, then they come along and you remind you. And they say, well, these are the consequences. This will happen. SEC, children, no films, and all the rest of it, to remind you of consequences. Why? Because they know that if you perceive consequences in part of your decision-making of do I speak my truth or not, then you will not be free to do that.
But let's talk about real consequences. If you give in to the chilling effect and intimidation, you will become a total slave, and the most evil people will take over the system via survival of the fittest, and you will be in a living hell.
How many people have put off and put off and put off doing what they know to be right because they fear the consequences, and then suddenly they hear the gate click behind them, and the time has passed that they can speak their truth any longer. And that's coming to the people who won't speak out if they don't start to do it. I mean, if these Hollywood stars who have seen the light, if you like, of what's going on in the world, if they got together and came out in unison, it would be so powerful.
Well, here's the problem. They're all surrounded by a mafia of handlers that threaten them and do all sorts of stuff if they don't.
Well, the thing is, that's when you make the choice, Alex, isn't it? Am I going to acquiesce to this, or am I going to do it anyway? There was a book once that was the title was something like "Feel the Fear and Then Do It Anyway," because that's what we need to do. Because the alternative is not to do it, and then it's not just the mafia of handling Hollywood stars. Those Hollywood stars then become subject to the mafia that will be handling the whole entire nation and eventually the world. Now, we're still at a point where we can turn that round. If we take our courage and do what we know to be right. You see, I've said this for years, Alex. What would change the world overnight is if people started making decisions in their everyday lives, and including the subject areas we're talking about, based on what is right, what is just, what is fair, what is the right thing for me to do. Not what is the right thing for me in the short term, in the moment to do. That's how we got into this mess. But what is the right thing to do? And if we made that change from doing what we know to be right, as opposed to, well, what's right for me in the moment, that's when consequences start to, fill the sheet of paper. What are the consequences of me of doing? No, forget that. What is the right thing to do? Speak out. Well, do it then. And I tell you, I've had a lot of experience of this in Britain, certainly years ago, of getting mass ridicule for speaking out. And I tell you something, it's much easier when you do it than thinking about it. When you're thinking about doing something and you're thinking about the consequences and you're thinking about what could and couldn't and might, that kind of can freeze you, because all the things that could go wrong kind of fill your mind. But when you actually say, I'm going to do it, and you do it, it's amazing how easier it is, how much easier it is to speak your truth once you do it, rather than sitting around thinking of the consequences of doing it. Forget all that. Do it, and the world will shift, because the world is based on human perception. Information changes perception. Perception changes the world, because it changes human behavior and human action. And so those people with the platform, with the name in various areas, that have the platform to be heard, come on, let's have you. Let's have you. No more acquiescing, no more fear, no more what if.
Well, David, going back briefly, and then we're going to hit a few final news items and let you go, and I appreciate your time. It's been amazing. David, I go back to being 11, 12 years old, and they put me, once I went to middle school, and there would literally be young adults who were 3, 4 years of flunking school who would have mustaches. Sixth grade, kids with facial hair would beat us up. The teachers would do nothing. And I'd come home with black eyes and stuff, and my dad said, look, you just got to fight them. You just got to get angry and fight them. The thing is, I'd always been a really sweet child, and even a few times when I was smaller, I had gotten mad and beat people up. And of course, these weren't bullies that backed off. Only a few times would I end up with a broken leg or a concussion in the hospital, but they always had worse. And I remember being about 12 years old, and these guys had already beat me up before, and some of them were actually in junior high and high school. And it was almost like a few times when I was in the wrong getting in a fight, because I kind of turned into a brawler by the time I was 16, 17. The few times I wasn't 100% in the right, I had no power. When I was fighting somebody my same size, fighting somebody who, because we both said something to each other and we were acting tough, I had no power. But when 3 guys weighing over 200 pounds or a wrestling champion or a boxer assaulted me, it was like slow motion. Nothing could stop me. I'd break their nose every punch. I'd knock them on the ground every time. Because a man in the right can't be stopped by a man in the wrong. If the man in the right keeps on coming. And it's the same thing politically, spiritually, everything. Is that when you're down and a bunch of people are attacking you, that's when you've got the real power, when you're in the right, because as Martin Luther King said, justice bends towards, the universe bends towards justice. And I just remember that feeling, when I finally was like 12 years old and been beat up so many times, deciding I'm going to get mad, I'm going to attack these people back. The liberating feeling. It's humiliating to be scared and ball up and let them hit you and stomp you, but it's good to just I'm ready, and I mean, that's what we need politically, spiritually, economically. We need to just say, you know what? You want some? You're going to get it. Let's go. You see what I'm saying, David?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a point you reach where taking a step back or stopping in mid-stride is not an option. You just keep walking at them. There's a song that came out in England years ago. It was actually about getting drunk, actually, but there was a great line in it which says, or a chorus, I get knocked down, I get up again. You're never going to keep me down. And that's the spirit we need. And my goodness, there's billions of us. There's a fraction of that number, a tiny, tiny infinitesimal fraction that are at the center of the web doing the string pulling of this gigantic conspiracy of human slavery. I can see an answer to this. We need to move the dynamics of where the power is from the tiny few to the mass of the people, where it really lies, and then the game changes. Then the game's over.
All right.
But come on. No more excuses. Let's get on with it.
All right, David. I'll only keep you about 10 more minutes because we've already kept you longer, and we've got some videos and other live guests coming up and phone calls I'm going to be taking, but we're very honored to have you. DavidIke.com speaking. Before you leave us, talk about where you're speaking this weekend and then some of the other speaking engagements. Yeah,
I'm speaking in New York in Times Square on Sunday, but I think all the tickets have gone for that. But I'm in San Francisco, San Rafael, just near San Francisco, next Saturday, speaking all day from 10 in the morning till 8 in the evening, connecting an enormous amount of dots and many other
things. And a
strange
synchronicity, because I hadn't thought of this when the station finally got me to do it, because I'm also doing a TV interview while I'm out there and some other things. I'm going to be speaking on the 24th, the day after you.
The day after.
About 30 miles south in Santa Cruz, and that's sold out, so there's a second one on the Monday, ksco.com, if folks want to get tickets to that event out in Santa Cruz. And people can find out all of this at davidike.com. But the final issues I want to cover with you, you were just on, wasn't it just last week, David?
Yeah, last week, mate.
And we were talking about Project Bluebeam, a staged fake alien invasion. And folks, if you don't believe us, just search the term Project Bluebeam. Part of it's been declassified. It goes back to the 60s and 70s. And in the 90s, they declassified stuff. I even saw in Popular Mechanics about 3,000-foot holograms the Pentagon can project of the Easter Bunny, Jesus, Buddha, whatever they want. David Icke, I mean, they can project Superman up there. They can project Alex Jones. They can project, George Bush, Kim Jong-il. They could do anything they wanted, and they admitted to unify the earth against an outside alien threat. That's how they want to get their world government.
Right.
Well, to then see these, quote, military people come out and say, the aliens will arrive over major cities, including New York, on the 13th. And then we're going to show that ABC News article up on screen right now. Then I'm going to Zbigniew Brzezinski after that. Sorry, I flipped that on the guys. FAA unable to identify object flying over New York City, and it looks like something out of Star Wars / The Fifth Element. hovering with, lights on it and everything. Well, we know they've got all sorts of hovercraft. We know the Germans had stuff that looked like flying saucers. That's where the original stories. We know they say the SR-71 Blackbird in service in 55, developed in 52. So they say this fastest plane in the world, over 50 years ago. Total baloney. We know that they kept for 20 years secret the B-2 bomber. We know that DARPA had computers and internet in the 60s. We know all that, but to now have the Pentagon and the press club and all this promotion and all these TV shows and all this push that aliens are about to land. David, I'm going to give you the floor for about 5 minutes on this. Then I've got this Zbigniew Brzezinski clip and about how we're going to win. I want to get your take on that. And I'll let you get out to some of the other interviews and things you're doing there in New York City. But, I mean, here it is, because this morning I'm like, oh, the UFOs didn't come, and then boom, they arrive. There's reports all over the world. I mean, this is big. I mean, if aliens are showing up, folks, they're not going to have Air Force officers telling you they're about to arrive. And we need to look up the names of all these people and really do some deep research, because we know there's a government program to stage this, to unify people, and also to cover up your research that there is off-world activity and that they're trying to create a hoax to control that situation. David, for about 5-6 minutes, you've got the floor, and then I've got one other issue for you. David Icke of davidicke.com.
Well, the thing that we need to appreciate, first of all, when it comes to high technology, is that there is a cutting edge of technology that we see in the public arena, and then there's what they can really do. And they've been covering up in the underground facilities for decades the fact that they have anti-gravity technology, what people call flying saucers. And so just because a craft is in the sky that no one has seen before, and it can't be human, look at it, we don't have them. Well, actually, we do have them. They don't show you that they have them. And this period that we're in now is like so many strands are coming together at the same time. On one level, it seems as if the control system is coming in more and more and more. And on one level it is, and it's going to seem like it's going to continue for a while yet. But what we're actually seeing is a cornered rat. And a cornered rat kind of thrashes out because it's got nowhere else to go. It's in a panic. And so we've reached this point now where I've been saying for ages that they're going to throw the kitchen sink and the plug at us. So we're getting these strands coming together like a perfect storm of chaos and fear and confusion and bewilderment, with the economic situation, with wars, with probably fake terrorist events coming along again, but also they're throwing in this fake alien invasion stuff. And as you say, Alex, when the military tell you it's coming and it comes, well, please, the situation is so blatant, and it's been building for a while. In my new book that came out like about 3 or 4 months ago, there's a section in there that talks about this and the fact that I'd seen this seed change take place in the attitude of the authorities to the whole UFO phenomenon. For year after year, decade after decade, it was just dismissed. Oh, a load of rubbish. Oh, no, and all that stuff. Oh, no, it's a weather balloon and all this business. And suddenly there was a switch where suddenly they were giving it credibility, they were giving it credence, and then these military people started speaking out, and then there was all these papers have come to light, and Churchill knew about it and said, oh no, we mustn't release it, and all this stuff, and it's all coming together in the same period of time, and it's moving somewhere. And it's very important that people realize what the game is, because one of the great contributions that people have made over the last decade or more in making public what the agenda is, it's diffusing the power of that agenda when it's introduced. If you have strange flying saucers appearing over New York or wherever out of nowhere, and then they tell you, oh, it's an alien invasion. Well, there's a good chance you're going to believe it, because to your eyes it seems like that. But if you've been told what the agenda is beforehand, hey, this is the plan, then those people are not pulled in by it. They're not manipulated by it. They say, "Hey, this is a fake. This is a setup, and it's designed to do this." And so the information that's got out up to this point has had a tremendous impact and made a tremendous contribution to diluting the power of this agenda as it's introduced. You know, and people talk about the microchipping agenda ages and ages ago. As the microchipping agenda comes in, people say, "Hey, this is what they said was going to happen." If it comes in without that information before, then it comes in a much more powerful way. So, you know, we need to get this information circulating, not least about this whole alien bloody nonsense. Yes, that there are non-human groups and races that are manipulating this planet. I've been writing about it for years, but is that what this is? No way. It's a problem reaction solution to create a mass acceptance of centralizing power in the world to meet the threat to the planet. When you want to change the world on a global level, you want global problems, rather, that you can give global solutions to. So you want a global economic crash, world central bank, etc., centralized control of finance. You have global warming or climate change that they're trying to sell as human cause. That's a threat to the planet. It's a world problem if you accept the nonsense that it's a problem, and therefore you can give a global solution to it. And of course, the old alien invasion, the extraterrestrial invasion, is a global problem if people buy it, for which they can offer a global solution. So this is what's happened. We have a global war on terror and all the rest of it. They're just creating more and more global problems that they can give us global solutions for. And we need not to buy it and to get informed, and when we get informed, to communicate what we know. And the whole thing expands, and the game rules change, and humanity takes its life back, and its collective life back, and the planet back. Alex, gone to the toilet, so I see. Yeah, and so...
David, hold on. I've told you a couple times. The only way I can shut up and give you the floor is I'm going in there and sitting in the control room, sitting back, getting to listen to David Icke. So go ahead and finish the next point you were making. We'll get into our final point.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, you know, what we've been talking about here, Alex, the time I've been on, what is it, best part of an hour, it's all about one simple theme, that we have the power to take control back of our lives, our collective lives, and the planet we live on, and take control back of human society.
And that's our biggest value, is that we have the power of free will and choice, and they try to create a hologram of disinformation and media propaganda and false semantical labels, as 1984 writes about, so we can't even communicate with each other, and we're nearing that fork in the road. We've got to put the full exertion out now.
Yes, we've reached that point on the journey where, as that pastor said in Nazi Germany, the famous phrase, first they came for the Jews, I was not a Jew, so I did nothing. Then they came for the communists, I was not a communist, so I did nothing. Then they came for the trade unionists, I was not a trade unionist, so I did nothing. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. And that's why the people in Hollywood and the people with a public stage and everybody that's got any understanding of what's going on, doing nothing, staying silent is no longer an option, because eventually there'll be no one left to speak out for you. There is now. We can come together and speak out for each other. But if we leave it any longer, there'll be no one left to speak out for you. And you'd think, if only when I had the chance. Well, you do have the chance. Let's have you.
And the iron curtain of total tyranny is falling. I've got one other point with you, another 5-6 minutes or so with David Icke. We're going to let him go. Appreciate him spending time with us. A chance to see him out in San Francisco coming up on the 23rd, correct, David?
Yep, next Saturday, yeah.
Next Saturday, and they can find out more at davidicke.com?
Yeah, it's all there, yeah.
Okay, right there on the front page, and we'll put that front page up for folks here in a moment. But continuing, we are running the Infowars.com money bomb, Infowars, moneybomb.com. Find links to it at Infowars.com, prisonplanet.com. They haven't updated it yet. 30 minutes ago it was $174,000 and 53. So again, we'll put that back up on screen because I'm looking way across the room here. $174,000 and 54. So $174,000 and 53. So we just got the new numbers. We've now raised over $201,000. We are now online for goal. You can write to us. We'll add it in next week. Last year we raised $300,000. Another $50,000 came in the next week from mail. P.O. Box 19549, Austin, Texas 78760. P.O. Box 19549, Austin, Texas 78760 for Alex Jones or InfoWars. I'll do it. You can also, again, the best place is Infowars.com, InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. You can give PayPal, credit card, whatever you'd like. And you can also call. We got 7 people up there taking your calls one after the other. If it's busy, just stay on hold. They'll get to you. God bless you. We want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for helping me live out my mission to defeat these people, and we're all in this together. So thank you for helping sharpen and harden the tip of our spear. 888-253-3139. Make that decision to donate and support what we're doing. 888-253-3139. And then I have Ron Paul and David Icke and Lou Dobbs today and thousands of other prominent guests and authors. And I have them on. They promote their events, their books, their information, because I think it's key. And we're a platform to get the information out. You know, I go back 15 years ago, 13 years ago with my first film. I said, get it, make copies. You know, just because I wanted to reach people. And it's had such a big effect. So as I've given my time, my energy, my very essence, my blood, sweat, and tears, as David has, please donate to us today. David, I want to get into Zbigniew Brzezinski and that final statement that, you know, we're winning, the elite aren't invincible. I want to play this clip and get your take on it. But briefly, what's your view on my money bombing? What does David Icke think of? I've never asked this. What do you think of Alex Jones? What do you think of what I'm doing? I mean, what do you think of? I mean, what does your spirit, your gut tell you about Alex Jones? Do you think it's worthwhile to support Infowars.com?
Well, I think it's worthwhile to support any person or organization that is getting suppressed information into the public arena. And clearly you've been doing that on a vast scale through various means, your website, your radio show, etc. And, you know, you have a loud voice, in more ways than one. You have a loud voice in terms of getting this information circulating. And, you know, people have said to me over the years that Alex Jones is CIA or Alex Jones is that and Alex Jones is the other. And, you know, I've said, well, look at what's happened in terms of information circulating that would not have happened if he hadn't done it. So, you know, where's the benefit? I mean, I hear the arguments about, oh, it's controlled opposition and all the rest of it. Well, there's no kind of worse controlled opposition than getting information out that the control system doesn't want out there. You imagine, Alex, if and people listening, if the information that's been communicated by your show and yourself over the years and communicated by me and communicated by so many other people, if that had not have gone out there, where would we be now?
Well, David, if they had
been so far much further along the road.
Exactly, but I mean, folks, they try to create dissent. They try to tell you there couldn't be a good guy like David Icke or Ron Paul or Alex Jones or others. There couldn't be a way to win. It's a lie. You know you're good. Get out there and be a leader. You know, they say David Icke and Alex Jones and others, they become too successful. They must be bad. That's what it's all about. We're human beings. We have a destiny. We know the power of humanity. You think they want us telling you bisphenol A sterilizes you for 10 years, now they're banning it all over the world in the plastics? You think they want us telling you GMO is bad? You think they want us beating the Senate bill to take over the local farms and ranches? I mean, if people had any discernment, if they've stepped through to honor and truth and light, they would know we were real. They would have a basic understanding. But it doesn't matter. The facts of everything we've covered has now come true, and it's a cop-out. I'd say a third of the energies of the awakened population, people, in fact, it's one thing I feel bad about, but that's just the way it is. Some of the seeds aren't going to fall on the fertile ground. They're going to fall on the rocks. The birds are going to eat them, as Christ said. But I wake up tens of millions of people, literally tens of millions, conservatively, Okay, I mean, folks, you go to Russia, you go to Japan, you go to Mexico, Infowars.com spray painted. I mean, it's just everywhere. I mean, a prophet's not owned in his own country. It's like David's bigger outside the UK than he is in the UK. The issue is that we have had an ultra massive effect. We've reached hundreds and hundreds of millions of people. We've been spot on. And I look at all the Nazis and people that attack us, like Hal Turner, who I said was a Fed 10 years ago. Now it's admitted. We're right, we're right, we're right. And that's why the system's scared. And it's a cop-out for people to not get involved. Instead of fighting the globalists and that tiny elite, they're trying to get us fighting with each other. And the White House science czar Cass Sunstein admits that's a long-term program for them to pose as conspiracy theorists, i.e. someone who questions the official story of anything, to get us killing each other and fighting with each other instead of going against the tiny 1/10 of 1% that are the globalist controllers. David.
Well, this is a very, very important point, you know, and it's another expression of this. Oh, the elite have all the power, and that is that if you are successful in getting information, suppressed information out to vast numbers of people, then you, by definition, must be one of them. Otherwise, you'd be dead. I've had it read about. I've read it about myself from time to time, more than a few times. He must be one of them. Otherwise, he'd be dead. I mean, talk about giving your power away. Talk about, you know, putting your hands out and saying,
David, interrupt again, and that's why I leave the room, because you just makes me talk so much when I talk to you. They're saying no one could stand up, and they're saying about themselves they could never be a great leader of humanity with freedom and love and power and truth. They have no respect for themselves. I mean, I know I'm real. I know we've had a massive effect. I know how pure it is. I mean, I am 100% real. I know you're real. I know Ron Paul's real. I have discernment, and I've seen the effect, the fruits of the tree, and then this religion of divide and conquer saying, no, there could be no one that's real. There could be no one that had victory. You know, we can't wake people up. We can't win. And, David, I know how close we are to winning. And the fake Bible interpretations about the rapture that isn't even in there until after the devil's defeated. That's what's actually in the Bible. All the 2012... the world's going to end. You know, that's for the New Agers and atheists.
Yeah, they're going to wind that up in the next little while.
Yeah, briefly talk about that, and then we're going to play this final clip. Talk about 2012.
Well, you know, when you look a bit deeper into this whole Mayan thing, it becomes very much less than concrete that any of this stuff was actually there anyway.
Well, you've been to Mexico to top Mayans and others, and I've been to the archaeologists. They say it means a new time, a new hearth, a new, age, like a new 1,000 years.
Yes, and also, you know, we've got the Gregorian calendar and all that stuff, and how do we know that, you know, this period of what we call 2012 is the period they were talking about anyway, if they were really talking about it in the same terms? It's something that, you know, the greatest form, or one of the greatest forms of mind control and perception control is repetition. Repeaters. We have teachers in school that just repeat what they're told at training college and in the curriculum. You question them on it, and they're often lost. We have repeaters, scientists, repeaters, the greatest ones, journalists and media people. And we have this repetition of certain stories, like we have a repetition of the 2012 story. So then it becomes real by repetition. It takes form.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, and you know, I think they will manipulate, or quite possibly manipulate things in 2012 to make it seem like some of these prophecies are happening, quite possibly. But there is a change going on. There's an energetic, vibrational information change going on. But it's not something. And
they were able to track in their plan that it was all coming together at that time. So they put out a 2012 end of world thing to pacify non-Christians, just like the rapture myth is used to pacify Christians.
Yeah, I've been talking since for 20 years about a vibrational change that was coming, that was going to take us into a new epoch, into a new age. The first book I ever wrote when I woke up 20 years ago.
But they create a counterfeit.
Yeah, it was called truth vibrations after this vibrational change. And, you know, I understood at that time, 20 years ago, that this vibrational change was going to bring to the surface all that had been hidden so people would see what had been hidden. Well, my God, has that happened or not? And the humanity was going to wake up from its coma. Now, that is clearly happening. But this whole 2012 thing is just, it's a diversion. This energetic change is ongoing. It's not going to come to some peak in 2012. You know, the significance of 2012 is it's not 2011, but it's not 2013 either. This is an ongoing process, and I think there's a lot of people that have bought this 2012 diversion, and they're going to wind it up and push it and make it as much as possible to appear to be happening. But it's a diversion. It's another fake alien invasion, if you like.
I totally agree with you, David. In closing, I want to thank you for all your time, and I want to play this clip of Zbigniew Brzezinski. It's 4 months old, but you know, here he is telling the CFR of Canada, the Royal Institute of International Affairs Canada MI6 branch, on record. Carol Quigley, their historian, admitted it all in '68 in Tragedy and Hope. Here he is telling him there's a global awakening, and for the first time, the entire planet is awake to us. I'm not going to play the whole 6-minute clip, but you can search the term. Zbigniew Brzezinski talks about global awakening, prisonplanet.com, and get it. And he says, we're in trouble. And they're actually scared, and you look at their faces. Some people say, oh, that's just them acting like they're weak playing possum. No, he's there rallying his troops saying, look, you better get busy. These people are waking up to us. If these ants ever figure out, like you said earlier, in fact, cue up after this the Bugs Life clip, please. If these ants ever figure out they outnumber us 100 to 1, our way of life is over. We'll end it with that with David after this clip. But David, here's this clip of Zbigniew Brzezinski.
Okay.
Much more complicated. The other major change in international affairs is that for the first time in all of human history, mankind is politically awakened. That's a total new reality. Total new reality. It has not been so for most of human history until the last 100 years. And in the course of the last 100 years, the whole world has become politically awakened. And no matter where you go, politics is a matter of social engagement, and most people know what is generally going on in the world, and are consciously aware of global iniquities, inequalities, lack of respect, exploitation. Mankind is now politically awakened and stirring. The combination of the two, a diversified global leadership, politically awakened masses, makes a much more difficult context for any major power, including, currently, the leading world power, the United States.
Okay, then they go into questions and answers and talk about New World Order and their world government, and he says they're in trouble. So he says mankind, for the first time in history, and I agree with him, is awake and staring. That was said 4 months ago. Awake and staring. We are now looking past their puppet politicians, past their repeater news media that like a tree of parrots or a tree of monkeys. We are now looking at them. They can feel our will. They can feel our spirit. They can feel our life force that loves goodness and wholesomeness against their maggot-filled lust for death and destruction. The psychopathic control guild knows that we are awake and staring. David Icke.
Yeah, and what they're also aware of and terrified of is they can feel our awareness. They can see our awareness. Because humanity has been kept in servitude for as long as human history can be recorded, to this point anyway, by the suppression of awareness. People call it ignorance, but it's not just...
And notice he said for the first time in history. They know. They know. He's confirming everything you've said.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we have been through an epoch of suppression, an epoch of suppressed awareness, and suppressed awareness is what is necessary if the few are going to control the many. The few cannot control an open-minded, conscious, sharp-thinking, aware population. They can't. So they work to do the opposite, to keep us in this state of ignorance, multi-level ignorance, even about the nature of reality and who we actually are, which is not the body, it's consciousness, it's awareness, but it's suppressing that awareness, suppressing that memory.
Yeah, we don't know that we are all incredible creatures made by the creator of the universe. And if people realize that, they're like, get out of my way, you little roach, Rockefeller. They know all these secrets, and they used it to enslave instead of empowering.
Exactly, and so what's happening, as what I've been talking about this last 20 years, about these truth vibrations, this energetic change, this epoch change, which is teasing open the suppressed, locked, coma-stated human mind. That's what they're terrified of for a very simple reason. They have been able to control thus far because human consciousness has been asleep. They cannot control humanity when humanity is awake, and we're awakening. And what they're trying to do, Alex, with all their food additives and drink additives, electromagnetic pollution, the generation of fear through all these various things they're doing with the economy and fake alien things and all the rest of it.
Stage terror.
Yeah, stage terror, all the rest of it. What they're doing is trying to, in multi-levels, whether it's the chemical level, the electrical level, the energetic level, the vibrational level, the emotional level, the mental level, to suppress this awakening. They're fighting the awakening. That's what they're doing with all this stuff.
Yes, and here's an analogy. You and I speak imperial language. I mean, English is the global empire language. It's the most powerful core of the empire. It is now the world language. We speak English, so you and I are able to interface, use words that connect to images in our minds,
right,
and interface in a beautiful way. But Chinese, Japanese, Mexicans, people speaking Italian, Deutsch, they aren't able to interface with us. And it's the very same thing. You talk about information, cutting down the information, reducing, putting blinders on. It's just like language. Do you speak awakening? Do you speak liberty? Do you speak power of human potential? Do you speak truth? And that's that universal language that connects us all. And it's just like I can speak English, you can speak English. Well, we are now globally speaking the language of love and truth and honor and productivity and everything wholesome and decent. The globalists are afraid of that energy because if they don't suppress it and dominate it, we will be self-sufficient, powerful, sharp creatures that would throw them off incredibly easily. We're 1,000 feet tall. They're a little bug, and they know that. David, I want to play this bug's life, but 60-second response to that.
Okay. Well, what I would say is I'm getting invitations now to more and more new countries that don't speak English, and I'm doing simultaneous translated presentations. But there is a level of awareness that is beyond language where you connect with people even if you can't communicate through words. I feel that all the way around the world when I go to these places. But, what we're talking about here explains why at the very same time that this awakening is happening, it's exactly the same time that the control system is throwing everything at us. This is not a paradox. This is not a coincidence.
This is not the takeover.
Trying to suppress the awakening because if I can know for 20 years that this is coming, then how long have they known it's coming? And they've been preparing for it. They're trying to keep the lid on and batten down the hatches of something that they know is going to bring the house of cards down. And they're whistling in the dark. And this is why they're becoming more desperate. It's because they realize that no matter what they're throwing at us, more and more people are waking up. They're going to run out of fingers to stick in the dike as the leaks spring.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
A wonderful time to live through. Very challenging, but this lot's coming down.
Yes, everyone alive. It's a great honor to be alive at this point in time. And exactly, this is not their takeover. This is their attempt to suppress a literal prophesied insurrection against dehumanization. They are scared, and you can see it, David.
They are trying to hold on to the power they have had through this epoch. But because humanity is waking up, they're having to become more and more blatant in their desperation, because they're having to up the ante to keep us in the same state. And this is why it's coming to the surface. It's because they're having to throw more and more things at us, more and more fingers in the dike, and so it becomes more and more obvious what they're doing, and that is a spiral in itself, because the more obvious it becomes what they're doing, the more people see it and start to awaken, and so these people are in desperate trouble. But because they're going to throw everything at us, the next few years are going to be very challenging. But this is coming down.
Well, there's a...
And you know, they're starting to know it.
Exactly. That's why they're bailing out and building armored fortresses in the middle of nowhere in the Cook Islands. But here's the danger. Yes, they're moving with their total takeover plan to block us. We know that. They admit that. You just heard Brzezinski for listeners. Yes, that's going on. But if people don't give their maximum effort, this could go on for a lot longer. And they are counting on intimidating people and battering them down to shut up and go along. But we have to really stand up and say, no, we see you for what you are. I want to play A Bug's Life. I think your final comment. We're going to let you go, David. We really appreciate the time. Here is The Bug's Life that David mentioned.
But there was that ant that stood up to me.
Yeah, but we can forget about him.
Yeah, it was just one ant.
One ant. Yeah, you're right. It's just one ant.
Yeah, boss, they're puny.
Puny? Say, let's pretend this brain is a puny little ant. Did that hurt?
No.
Well, how about this one?
Are you kidding?
How about this? You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? He's quite the motivational speaker, isn't he? Let's ride!
And that's them staging 9/11 and the financial collapse and the fake global warming, so we need them. And they're so arrogant, David. They had White House officials in the Financial Times of London, like Robert Shapiro, say Obama needs another Oklahoma City or 9/11, so people love to think he's protecting them. They're so arrogant, they talk right out in front of us.
But you know, mate, some of the most arrogant, playground bully people have been some of the most frightened, insecure people. And a lot of this is whistling in the dark. On some levels, it is arrogance, because it's the
No, you're right. It's a front, like snobbery.
Yeah, it's the arrogance of ignorance at one level, but at the inner core, where they understand the dynamics of what's happening on an energetic level and a consciousness level, they are starting to realize there's a very, very good chance the game is up. And I can tell them exclusively the game is up.
David, I think of the probably 40, 50 interviews, I don't know the number, but it's got to be 40 or 50 in the last 15 years that I've interviewed you off and on. I think this was the most powerful, and I really feel like I have an even greater connection with you after this, and I know you're a good guy, and I appreciate your trailblazing work, and just God bless you.
Okay, mate. Well, nice to talk to you. I hope you make lots of money, and anyone wants to see me in San Francisco next Saturday, and you just down the road next Sunday, well, you know, all welcome.
All right, David, do you think this was the best interview we've ever done?
I've enjoyed it greatly, because, you know, it's very, very important, crucial, that people appreciate where the real power is, because there is a danger that if we don't realize that we just sit around and watch the prison being built around us, thinking there's nothing we can do. The prison is being built because we think there's nothing we can do. That's the the irony. And, you know, it's great to be able to talk about the fact that we have the power. We just have to take it back, and I hope Hollywood's listening.
When you travel around the world, I mean, I know I hear about a few people, David Icke, Ron Paul, and, of course, myself, because I'm trying to explain to listeners and viewers how important it is to support so we can expand and have a platform for you and others to be on when you join us. I mean, do you get the same feedback I'm getting, that it's basically David Icke, Ron Paul, Alex Jones?
Well, I think, you know, everybody who makes a contribution, including Luke I was talking about here in
We Are Change is incredible, and exactly, I mean, that was spawned.
Everybody is making a contribution, is part of the tapestry of change, the tapestry of pushing this forward. Some people will be better known than others. And that's good.
But it's all just as important. No, I mean, it's all just as important. And then We Are Change grew out of this show. That's the example of what I'm talking about. And also, they can't kill a David Icke or an Alex Jones or a Ron Paul or others, because there's so many other great groups out there now. Yeah, well,
they certainly can't do it quietly. And, you know, this is the whole point. You know, you reach a point where the dynamics of power move, because say you know, they tried to ban me from speaking in America, for instance. Well, because of the point that's been reached, well, they can't lose. They can't win, rather. They can only lose less one way than the other way. You know, if they stop me coming in to speak, for instance, then I wouldn't speak to a few thousand people. But if they ban me, then the internet would go wild with the news going around like wildfire, and I would get, what I'm doing would get far more credibility as a result.
Well, that happened with Michael Savage being banned from England.
Yeah, so it's like the dynamics of power moves if you're prepared to keep walking and keep running at them, because then you cross a line where it's not that you've got to deal with them; they've got to deal with you. And this is what happens when you don't think consequences. You think, what is right? Okay, I'm going to do it. And you know, the idea of becoming well known with this information is the idea for those people that think that the only credible conspiracy researcher is a dead one. Becoming well known, because the information is getting out there. That's the idea. That's what we all should be trying to do, to get a higher profile into the public arena, so the information can be gleaned and seen by more and more people. You know, but again, it's that there are people that are well known because we've been doing it a long time, and things have, you know, becoming successful in that point. But every single person who enters the tapestry, who enters the network, whether it's on a local level, a national level, they're all making a fantastic contribution, and anyone can do it.
David, you know, that was my point.
I'm a guy from Leicester in England who never passed an exam in my life because school bored me to death. I left school at 15 to become a professional soccer player, and I did all my learning later in life on my terms, not the
But David,
terms.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Infowars.com, the radio show, the guest, it's all about this giant college of learning.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm here. That my whole mission is get other people to realize how powerful they are and to take action. And that was the point I'm making about how important the radio show, the films are, because it brings everybody together. And then we could, you know, going back 4 or 5 years ago, or 3 years ago, to Luke, okay, you got your one guy in New York kicked out. I said, Luke, you're a real leader. You have power. I'm going to promote your group. You keep going out and confronting people, and now that's spread everywhere. And now he's taught others, and they've taught others, and it's that.
Exactly. This is what is happening, and anybody can become involved. Come on, let's go. There's no such thing as too many people doing this. And Luke is a great example, because he was in something, from what I understand from what you're saying, that something was no longer in integrity, and so instead of accepting that and acquiescing to the lack of integrity, he took his integrity and under another name. That's what we need.
No, absolutely. Luke was just one guy in New York 9/11 Truth, but I'd spoken with him, talked to him, had him on. I could see in the videos, and he said, well, I'm doing what you did. What woke him up was Police Day 2000, where I was going up and confronting world leaders.
Yeah.
Nobody else was really doing that. And he said he started doing that, and it was having some success. And they told him, stop going to David Rockefeller's house, stop going to Kissinger's house, stop doing all that stuff. We want to focus just on 9/11. It was kind of a UN type deal. And he went public. I had him on about it, and he said, I don't know what I'm going to do. They grabbed all our stuff, all our signs, and I said, look, we're going to get you donations right now. Then Larry Silverstein's thugs on video said we're going to plant bombs on you and put you in prison. This is on video in Truth Rising. It's online for folks that want to see it. It's in the first 30 minutes of the film Truth Rising, 2 hours long about it. And I'm not saying, again, Alex Jones did this. I'm saying I had a platform to literally give him attention so others could help him. He had the leadership and the innate goodness that it took, and now it's taken off all over the world, and now he's gotten other groups to start their own modeled off this, and I never intended any of that. I know you never probably intended any of this, and it's amazing. David Icke, thanks for the hour and a half interview. You're amazing. Look forward to having you back up, and just thank you so much for your tireless efforts and your courage.
Cheers, mate. All the best.
All right, there goes David Icke,
Bye.
ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I was supposed to be airing a Dr. Paul Craig Roberts interview right now. It was supposed to be over by now, and then I was going to go to your phone calls. We're going to archive all these interviews and more. You already saw the Christopher Monckton interview, bombshell. We're going to air about 20, 30 minutes of this. Then I'm going to take calls, and then we've got Joel Skousen joining us coming up. We've got a Webster Tarpley interview video, but live Joel Skousen, Dr. Stan Monteith, and others. I just briefly want to explain to everybody, you know, we are all in. We are fully committed to this. This is an NPR or PBS that your mom or dad sat there and gave money to run by the Rockefellers. That's their joke. They're fully funded, but they just suck off you. There are some local PBSs that are actually airing 9/11 Truth films and stuff now and getting threatened. So there's some good local PBS. My point is the globalists have tried to run this whole system. We are totally 100% independent. We're 100% real. We're 100% bona fide. We've had unbelievable victories. And I'm here to set bushfires in the minds of men. It does not take a majority to prevail against tyranny. Only an irate, focused, tireless minority to light bushfires in the minds of men. Samuel Adams. And I am asking you to make the 2010 third annual Money Bomb bigger than all the others. And it's looking good. We've raised over $200,000 as of about 30 minutes ago. We got another $300,000 to go by the end of the live show tomorrow. We're going to go 27-hour Money Bomb. And I'll be live tomorrow as well, right through. I mean, I'm here. Here I am. We're here. This is crazy. And you've done it again. You made Rioting Americans #1 to link to the articles about martial law being prepared. InfoWars Money Bomb #2. Alex Jones was #3. It's now moved out of the top places. I got to think of some more searches, so overnight we can be #1, thanks to you entering it into Google over and over again. Amazing job. Look what we're doing together. There are 7 people here to take your phone calls with donations. There is the InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, where you can give via PayPal or credit card. You can call toll-free 888-253-3139 to donate and be part of this historic Money Bomb. And know you are contributing to a group. While you're fighting in your area to wake folks up, we're here internationally bringing in the grassroots people, bringing in the leaders, bringing in the scientists, bringing in the academics, bringing in the victims, bringing in the oath keepers, bringing in everybody together so we can show the wrongs of the elite when they're abusing people and victimizing them. We can show you people that have had success against the globalists, so we can show you the successes of We Are Change and Federal Jack and tyranny response teams and patriot groups and everybody. We are here, and that's why COINTELPRO, mainstream media, government operatives are all attacking us. That video that Aaron Dykes made, 12 minutes long, We Are Under Attack. Just search We Are Under Attack, Infowars.com, that 12-minute video. And it just shows just a snapshot of the type of attack we're under. Infowars.com to find InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com or 888-253-3139. Don't wish later you hadn't taken action. And regardless, we have got record numbers listing on the internet. Watching the free video streams is a free video box. Up there, we can see all these video interviews, free at Infowars.com. Not free for us, though. That's why we need the money. Probably be 10 grand or more. I'm really afraid of it. You know, just to have this with tens of thousands clicked on to the free flash streams. It just says, you know, watch the show free online, with the Money Bomb free online, Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com. Send that out to everyone you know. Tell them to tune in for Gerald Celente, Max Keiser, Joel Skousen, Stan Monteith, Dr. Stan Monteith, Dr. Childress, Sherri Tenpenny. It is Alan Watt. It is all coming up. You just got an hour and a half commercial-free of just a very amazing person, helped wake up so many people, very courageous, David Icke. Whatever you want to say about him, the guy's got courage, and almost everything he's talked about has come true, including the government promoting fake UFO landings. It's just getting totally insane. So InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, 888-253-3139. We'll be back in about 30 minutes, and then we're going to open the phones up here for your phone calls, and then we've got a bunch of guests coming up. It's InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, 2010, and it's really shaping up to be a huge success. All of us should have a lot of satisfaction right now in the way we are individually collectivizing to fight the globalist collectivists. This is individual will coming together. What two agree together for on earth is made in heaven. And it's so exciting. The truth will set you free. Here's Dr. Paul Craig Roberts. And now our interview with Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, the father of Reaganomics and the former Assistant Treasury Secretary under Ronald Reagan.